Good evening, or whatever it is, wherever you are. How's it going, Rainy? Yeah, I wasn't in a big rush since I was pretty much working from home before the whole pandemic thing, and I was actually expecting it to be like months people until regular people could be getting vaccines, but apparently there was openings at our county vaccine center for a little bit now. I just took some time to okay, actually read the paperwork, pick a time that's going to work now, and they automatically schedule the same time X weeks out for the second shot. So I kind of wanted to pick a day that would probably be free regardless. Part two in a weekish. Okay, yep. Yeah, I mean, given how fast they got to openings, I mean, I think our state opened to general population on the 16th. So if I'd gotten it right away, I might be around there. I was like, yeah, I'll give it a week, and then I'll see what the how full the schedule is. But turned out it was pretty open. All right, so well, before we even can use icons, we need to be able to place some associated piece of data at the interesting point there. And I don't really know that I'm passing that data down right now. So if I can just if I can draw a name, and I still haven't even done location of that thing for these, then we'll be in a position we could maybe, well, we've got the whole process of chasing those down. And I think my display arc, yeah, we're not setting down any parameters about what to draw there. Okay, kind of similar thing. It might just be down to the individual programs in the different states and maybe the budgets for getting stuffed. Well, and staffing. There's I think our county has like 3 centers now, and like there's a lot of people there. They've got you know door check-in, a couple desks, um, people helping guests move around. You've got the actual medical technicians doing the shots. Of course, well, the multiple sensors might be a bit of an accessibility thing, but if all the centers, well, if all the centers are at low capacity, maybe they'll go back to one. I'm sure they have burst times, when like before and after work and stuff. All right, so you are okay. So we display duo. We've got a trait. You are resulting in a collage. So we're doing I know when I was looking at the schedule site, the couple of time slots that were actually filled were like the first thing in the morning. you know, 9-ish. I don't really know. I don't know if there was any slot availability information beyond that on the site. Now I understand that it was harder back during the like essential workers only phase. People were kind of like, you know, checking in and checking at different times of the day to try and find where an opening had popped up. Okay, so this is the thing that's doing the filtering out to there. Give us the traits. This is indeed passing the trait down to there. Right now, this is not getting any information we'd use to display that. One of the things I've been wondering is if I should do this in 2 phases. One that calculates all the key points, so they can also use that for connecting up other lines, and another phase that uses that information for pure drawing. So we are passing some metrics down here. What kind of metrics are we passing? Or wow, which metrics are we using? Well, that's the helper function. That is probably just for the centers. That might be just for the centers. What else did I put in you? Okay, so that's parts for the rotation of the god. Why do we have to separate this? Oh, the adjusting distance might have been what we're using. Scale. Oh, yep. You are using some metrics down here, which is off screen. Actually, this might actually be, since this is all kind of geometry stuff, this is worth documenting a little bit. So we have where the gods are. Tweak the target point to change the radius of the arc. All right, so then we have the midpoint between those two. That's the perfect line between them. All right, so the because the visor curve method doesn't, because our visor curve method conveniently middle is also where we want to put the boon. Okay, so this is all middle leading up to that. All right, so now what we needed was calculate the radius of the arc's circle. This can be done with the can be done from the intersection. Man, how do you describe this? It's the intersection of perpendicular lines drawn from the midpoints of the connecting lines between two different sets of points. Okay, so we have we already have one such line from the get one more between icon point and one of the ends. So there's the midpoint. Get us a vector thereof perpendicular to because I was originally thinking I wouldn't have to normalize this, but it seemed like I did. Get one more. Okay, that gives us the big picture reason, and this kind of follows through midpoint perpendicular. And that's the point it's okay, yeah, so we did a vector so we can move it out slightly from there. The center is at the intersection, and then the radius center of the circle, which our arc is part of. Now we can figure out the radius of. And we're kind of getting into the over-commenting stage of things. No, or is this calculating the... No, yeah. And this is the intersection of circles. Is this... We're technically using some collage stuff in here at from the metrics for the centers of the gods. But everything else in here is just straight up math. So I'm wondering if I need to make like a display metrics. That's where you calculate this stuff, and then it can be attached to the trait information, right? We'd make a new structure, although we kind of gluing together the well, what is in my trait information anyway? Icon, trait ID, name. If we're displaying it, I might not need requirements. I don't know if I want to make a structure for that. I mean, I guess it was just the display aspect of it. So things we use in actual drawing. Terminal point, the icon point. Terminal point, icon point. And the icon point. That's really only 3 points as far as what we take out of that, at least so far. So if we mapped can map over that. Would we then make like a display icon? Would it be worth making a display icon structure? I might still need other information that remains to be seen. Oh. The way I've done this, we calculate all of our arc stuff relative to the resolved points. So the way I rotated it to avoid the corners sticking out as we rotated it, let's actually move these over. So I could not pre-calculate that stuff. But we haven't even got to moving it around yet. So we need to switch this over to calculate this stuff. Well, we're going to have just as much information in. Well, maybe except color. And if we wanted to stick everything together, we'd have to pass the trait in. If we only wanted to calculate this stuff and return it as its own little substructure, then we'd have nested structures, which I'm sure will be a pain to deal with later. Now, the metrics that I'm looking at are, in particular, for an arc. Now, maybe maybe we have an enumerated type that's like, okay, if you're drawing an arc, then it's 3 points. Well, we're going to have the point where we just draw the icon, and we're going to have the end points. Those might be semi-constant for everything, just the fact that, hey, it's an arc. Although I might get into other more complicated paths later. Yep. Oh, that's right. I keep putting off going through and updating that driver to see if we can get it to shush. I just have to keep doing this for now. Display, display, display. This would not be display. This would be calculating stuff. This we're going to display duo, display duos. To change what our metrics is. So I guess this is where we're calculating a bunch of stuff. And that is off of all the same information we have available here. Now that is, in fact, displaying all of those, including the lines. So that would classify them. Right now we're only passing these metrics to duos. Which has all of the centers. Well, would you really want to be instancing the centers every time? Yeah, once we've derived, we shouldn't need that anymore, I don't think. I don't know about this stuff. But then we're starting to talk about multiple kinds of metrics. We've got well, some of this stuff might be peculiar to duos, because other things are going to be connecting boons to their prerequisites. Well, I guess in a sense, this is 2 pointers to their different prerequisites. We kind of think of these as connecting lines. Which vaccine? COVID vaccine. Oh, I believe it was Pfizer. If you're talking about the sub-varieties. Not what you mean the fact that there was an actual answer to that question? Yeah, yeah, I guess there's a little bit of an ache so far. We'll see how it pans out. My buddy's like, sir, or whatever you did to your arm, please try not to do it again. We've got some invaders here. Well, I might have more magic. Because this says all of the centers is gonna be kind of like chart metrics, and then this will be individual arc metrics or line metrics. I don't know if I have a better connector metrics. Better name for that right now. I'll probably have to rearrange things as we get down into some of the other boon types. Okay, now we need to flip all of that stuff that's... Well, we have to split all that stuff into two. So maybe I can just kind of duplicate things and then collapse it back down. We calculate our points, which we can use both for connecting and for drawing. And then we have a thing that takes that information and draws it. Oop, that was in the search. So right now it's display duos. So from there on down, I guess you would actually you kind of have to build it up from this side because everything is calling the next. And I also need to, let's see, what are you returning? For the arcs, it's just going to be 3 points. I need a better name for these. Because we're going to have some kind of like line connecting things. So yeah, we've got 2 arbitrary points. And we've got like an icon point. Now, those are the things that we would calculate from that. If I passed the rest of this stuff down into that, all the way through that function, then we could have it return a collection of the stuff to display at that icon as well. I have a feeling we have to rearrange this later as we start getting into other types of connectors, but I just kind of have to start somewhere. Like this could end up being an enumerated type. This could end up being like a member of a an arc specifically. Well, there's going to be some kind of type in here, right? No, actually, we do have things that aren't arcs here. We've got lines, which do not yet have all this information. Well, we have to know up those for a little bit. All right, so we're gonna have like some sort of like calculate arc. Oop, that wasn't it. You do not have a color, although maybe we've been, I'm kind of losing my classification in the process of doing this. Although that was really just so I could tell these apart as I was trying to draw them. I don't think that's going to be a long-standing feature. All right, so the result of this here is just that, which I think will be compilable. Okay, we've got a syntax error. Type alias, because it's a structure. Or a record. Oh, I'd swear I got this to compile after doing all of that. Let's see. Actually, we could even now. Well, it's like I could take this out, but we're going to try to replace the entire thing well, no, because eventually we're going to pass a connector into this, right? Hey, Dubagore, how's it going? In some form or another, and then actually it won't end up needing all this stuff. Yeah, I was pretty well experienced in programming in general, so I think I just went to Elmlang and kind of started looking up the JavaScript equivalences. Now, it might be a different web page since then, and actually I know they've recently redone. Well, I don't think it's a beginner page anymore, but there's the guide, which is pretty good. You've got, I'm not sure what the examples are. Oh yeah, because there was the examples, which is an interactive thing where you can try it out here. And there's the from JavaScript, if you're familiar with that, which has your basic syntactic things. Characters and strings, record syntax, function syntax. I remember this being bigger before, but it has the basic syntax. Oh, maybe it's actually syntax, which is, yeah. Okay, so there's the JavaScript translation. There's just like, control structures, functions, operators. And if you understand pretty much all of those concepts, you can find the syntax to do it. Now there's still some like it has a very particular architecture, and that's where you get back to. Well, the examples will help some of that kind of meeting that minimum structure, and then the guide actually runs through, step by step building stuff up. So core language is a lot of that, control structures and stuff, and then you start getting into messages and well, actually at this point there is no commands. There's just messages and views, and then you get into the commands and stuff a little bit farther down. Well, so it's designed in part with beginners in mind. So if we go back to, well, and I mean the guide, I'll kind of go through this. I don't know if they actually have the basic program structure. No, there's not a page that's dedicated to it. Would that be actually technically browser, I guess. So that thing without commands is probably a sandbox, which is a program where you have your update and your view. And you kind of need a init to get the initial model. So the things in the update can send messages, or well, things in the view, you can put down buttons and whatnot that create messages. They get processed by your update that gives you a new model, which makes you re-render your view. I guess element is technically the next step up. And that has subscriptions, which get a little, actually end commands. So then you can start doing things like HTTP requests and asking for time and things. Actually, subscriptions kind of falls into that because it's requesting to get commands. Well, actually, it's requesting to get messages, but it's kind of its own thing, actually. Event sources like clock ticks. And the document is actually just, you're also controlling the location. Application. Oh no. Okay. So no, element is a part of a page. Document is the whole page, but you're not dealing with navigation. And then application deals with you can deal with backward and forward navigation. Yeah, they're going to start you off with a sandbox essentially. And then command subscriptions, we'll get into the next level ones. And then JavaScript interop, well, like ports, I guess, kind of falls a little bit into the same command subscription thing. Web apps, navigation, URL parsing, yes, that's that application stuff. But yeah, if you go to the examples, I'm going to get, well, most of these are probably, certainly these are going to be sandbox. Oh, wait, this isn't even sandbox. This is just main is HTML. Yeah, HTML. Then that is, browser.sandbox. Init update view. And there might be some other things that I guess even random would have to get into commands. Yeah. So that's an element. So you could be, oh, this is just, you see, I just called that A and B, didn't I? But I also called those gods A and B, which makes this, and we could pull it out. Maybe this is like end A and end B. Which I used for something slightly different here before. Oh, right. We also need the center point because it's an arc about there. That sets the radius of the circle. Okay. So if it's an archetype, which this isn't accounting for which type it is. So this might end up being like arc with this center point. Okay, now we want to be able to so that would kind of carry over. So this would be like calculate skip 2. And then the actual display of these wouldn't necessarily be different. We'd lose the color. Oh, you need to change. All right, and you're actually, you had a couple of differences. Yep, and return type. All right, and now there's display adjacent. Where did I do? Oh, display opposite. Oh, display opposite probably got pushed way the heck down. Yeah, it got pushed way down. But farther point was part of the common code. That turns into a big old calculation. That's the adjacency calculation. I guess I could punt and say the icon point is one of the endpoints for now on the lines. Although it's kind of just midpoint for now. I wanted to put all the duos into that structure. Okay, so that skip 1, skip 2, those are using a helper. This won't be able to work. Well, we could... I don't know how... Yeah, the center doesn't make any sense. If this was a connector as it stands... There's a bunch of stuff we don't have. At the icon point, which kind of depends on if we're actually placing it. And I can't actually give you a center yet. Oh, it's not midpoint. Yeah, it's geometry midpoint. So I kind of feel like I'm... Whoop. So that's an enumerand without any additional information. This is gonna... The display format... Well, I guess it's technically just arc and line. Although I might want to care about the difference between these. I don't know if I'll care about the difference between these. I put this in my... Oh, there it is. Which... arc center and just the line is self-defined. Nope, that doesn't work. I should have better names for this. Shape? Well, shape is a thing in collage, isn't it? Connector shape. Wait, I got 1, 2. Where's did I say calculate arc? Would it going to be like a further thing down? Now, that's great for you, but I went ahead and put this into display arc. I don't even know if I can use that name. I actually have to case this, even though this should only happen I mean, maybe this turns into a display function that takes either and figures out what to draw. And yeah, this should really. I need to do this better because this is silly. And I don't even have a display line right now that would work with this. Well, the display line was simple enough that it didn't need didn't need an entire function to do it, just a segment. We might be able to start thinking about how you would do a display connector. All right, calculate opposite. And it's probably going to look a lot like calculate adjacent. I might eventually want to do something different there. All right, so that works us back up to so this would be calculate duo. Okay, so that was not a drop-in replacement. Oh, because it still says it returns collage. Oh, then what do we do for you? We're not supposed to be getting these, but if we're putting traits in, they have all those types. Which is a signal the structure of the program is wrong. So 0, 0, icon point, end point. And maybe this eventually has to run for all things once I know what I'm going to do with them. Display duo, that is just a map. Okay, we are not stacking. This is not a single connector. It was a list of traits, so I guess it should be a list of connectors. Now, at some point, we want to put this information together with the trait. So we have sufficient information to draw it with all of its interesting interesting details. So we have like a something that draws a connector that will switch off of type, either do a line or an arc. Line is actually pretty easy. We're going to lose the color. The display arc, it is still two pieces. We're putting this here to mark that. That's eventually going to get taken over by the actual boon information, so we don't necessarily need that. So that may be not too much. Switching that off would take care of dealing with the line type. Okay, icon distance, metrics. If we get past a connector from wherever, well, there's the connector itself, which is just this, which means we might have to be breaking stuff out in more than one place. And A and B. I guess it doesn't hurt to leave it there. We've got all the information. And you did have a color. Which at some point we probably need to be thinking about putting back. Point. Right. Right, we're not calling this yet. We just have it syntactically correct. So we map over all of our stuff. Convert to those, we can draw those. But in order to take that point with the trait to display the trait stuff, we have to be thinking of them in pairs somehow. Maybe display connector is like a sub-function of a thing that is display trait. Do we have this yet? No. I guess we only need to if we can do everything here, and I'm not sure we can, because we might need to be connecting to points from the stuff inside the circle. We just calculate and call immediately and throw it away. Now you see this is display connector. And what do we call this? I guess in the interim, it's... we do something like that, and then it applies to both. Now, for all of these, this is not going to look good yet, because it's all going to end up mashed in the middle. In fact, for opposite, we should probably point, display opposite, instead of midpoint, I'm eventually going to want to pick one of these points based on maintaining one side of the graph, but display. Uh, 206. Oh, well, this is connector. It's just a structure. Oh, that might. I guess I meant interpolate backwards. Bye. Once again, not calling it yet. So this says that we calculate it and use it, and I'm going to have to change that later. Right, so this... is this actually filtered? Yes, it is. Well, yes, these are still duo boons, just only some of them are arcs. Yeah, so what is... I've never personally been into the alert command, so I guess if somebody can explain the why they like it, I'll think about it. Well, it's basically going to take this over. I'm just trying to be a little bit conservative. Let's see. So we want to do that. We still want to... This got passed. The call to this had the filter down to duos. So actually the way this was, it was a function of two things where we could actually just calculate the, mostly just calculate the thing there. And I don't know if this will actually hold up to a non-duo thing itself. So we have to wait. What if we've had to pick up a calculate duo? Oh no, I did have a thing that calculated a list, but now I'm not sure how to use it. Traits value. Must have, no, that's not, wrong number of parentheses. Display trait gets 2 arguments. 1, 2. Oh, I guess that was the 2 arguments. Okay, and yes, these are currently kind of random. Although that is actually in a pattern of sorts. All right, and in theory, that's still potentially useful. That has reduced that down to a thing where we can talk about the points. That does give me the point. We're using that to draw the square outside of the logic that does all of that. And this has access to the trait information, which we could use to draw something more interesting. I think this is still going to need a heck of a lot of refactoring. However, we do have traits. I think trait has something to the effect of name. When we display a god, then the question is, do we want to rotate the boons? I set up some of this stuff to be used to rotate the boons, but ooh, we don't know our angle. And I guess I could kind of figure out relative to the center, but for now we don't. Well, that's actually a different rotation. You're just this. Actually, am I just trying to show... Well, this is displaying a god specifically. But it is a color and a... Oh, right, I turned in... For the god, I turned it into an enum, and then I had to turn it back into a string. I guess I need something similar to that as a placeholder, but I might as well just make a new placeholder. Now, I think I might need to free up a name here. Connected. Actually, we could treat this as a shift. Now, I don't have a special color for you right now. If I pass down some God information, I could use that as a default. This is eventually going to go along with an icon, so I don't think I want a... Maybe I'll leave it there for now for sizing purposes. Okay, and that's actually color black. And... Oh, I must have taken a full-size thing and shrunk it down to the size I wanted it. What size do I want it? Actually, where was... Because I put that in there. And these are going to be all unrotated, right? I'm not even sure that rotating relative to the center would even be always right for these things. I might need to have it, like, clear the space behind it. So that at least lets us see what the traits are. All right, so display arc, display connector. 01's probably going to be too much. Maybe not that bad, though. I should probably just have a color parameter for this function. I guess it's thin enough that you can't tell. Okay, yeah, that's just a very, very light gray. Oh, we have charcoal. These are, in fact, all the same parameters right now. At minimum, we should be doing let. Actually, this is the same tracing. Now, this one is drawing too, so I can't apply it after this thing. Is there a name for this thing? Line style, maybe? Oh, they're both paths. What is a traced? It is a line style. Oop, and well, it is only one value now. Could have gone probably one line. And with that line, it almost could be a little thicker. Still a mess, but slightly more legible. Now, I almost don't mind having the duo boons a little bit large at this size. I think that, well, For one, I might need to wrap the duo words. An interesting thing about the duo boons, and maybe this actually applies to all of the boons, is that these are like all, there's sometimes an of, but it's basically always two words, which means we can't always wrap. Oop. Oh, so it's still snoozed. But if we just break on spaces, that's obviously not going to work because of the ofs. Well, the ofs are mostly cursed, which you could, I think in most cases, that's going to end up being the short word. Yeah, so one thing we've lost with this is rotation. I might need to... I'm certainly going to have a center vector somewhere in my calculations, well, for all of the arcs, anyway. And the others, I guess I could figure it out. Maybe these will be a little bit smaller, but I do like that even though this is a little bit shrunken down to being kind of half the screen and with the debug window open. Yeah, and you see now I can't read them. Now this is, yeah, I've not yet done page sizing on this. Actually, I'm not responding to resize events, but all the same, we're not resizing yet. Well, yeah, I guess I don't want it to be this big because it's going to start crossing these lines. Now I can push these out more. That's going to then push the rest of this stuff in, making it smaller. But I kind of like having the duo, maybe having the duo boons a little bit bigger because it's something you're going to be looking at this scale of the drawing. Whereas if you're looking at Zeus stuff, you'd kind of zoom into him, and then that stuff might be more appropriate scale there. But with the larger ones there, we're going to have to shrink the entire thing. Now, I think that was something I ended up kind of fudging from my base radius. Yeah, these could be a problem. And I'm fairly certain that there's some of these I tend to get a lot and some I don't. Probably has to do with the other boons I pick. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen that one. I think I've seen that one. I think I've seen that one. Seen that one. I think I've seen that one. That. I think I've seen that one. I know what that does. I know what that does. I know what that does. I forget what cold fusion does. Vengeful mood as when I know. I think I know what that does. Forget what that does. Aphrodite Athena. Yeah, I don't get that one very often, or I don't take it very often. I know what that does. I think that's knockback is shock. I know exactly what that does. Not sure about that one. I know that one. Don't know that one. So one thing I'm thinking about whether these should be line broken. I'm thinking about whether they should be rotated. Because this is certainly nicer to read here, but it would tend to fit more consistently if it was rotated around the ring. Actually, these might not really have a line. I mean, I guess I'll have to have like a connection point, but it might just be that point. And these lines would want to be cut down to like here. Yeah. No, I had to do some. No, actually, it was the center of these arcs. These things, I have this point. So I have that, and I'm going to know what this size is. I should be able to do, well, it's just like a radius rescale, basically. So I guess I try to fix some of those up. It's not gonna change the lettering that I'm working with right now, but and this actually calls into question is this structure right? Because this is actually almost like it's not even a line. And there are lines going to be going into it. Going to be able to go straight from each god. I guess I could push it out some tiny little amount from either of those just to give the two different connection points, but that remains to be seen. How are you doing, Liger? So actually, you're just like a no-op. Excellent. Okay, so these are just implied by being on the borders. Display display opposite. What is display opposite? Calculate opposite. The end of the line. Actually, this is in fact going to be both equivalently. So we have this is going to be the centers that we're interpolating towards. Well, I know what radius they're at. I know what I'm scaling them to. I don't know if I can I use that? So they're going to be on a ring at there. And then that's a master metrics thing. Well, that's the adjacent distance. Does that have the size they're scaled to? Cupcakes cover with blue icing. So you're back on the in-person classes, huh? Well, I guess I could just do a and this seems to have worn off. Oop. I mean that would work. I think that implies to the GPO. Back before August. Wow. Okay. Is that the only thing we could fix up? No. But the gods were scaled. Okay, so the line between there, that is that distance. Which means I might have to pass that down more. Oh no, this is still calculate opposite. It might not yeah, you've got chart metrics. And since that is between two of those circles, there's going to be the diameter of one of those circles, which is happens to be exactly, because it's two circles again, the amount we'd shrink that by if it was an absolute distance. So I think I'm just going to have to normalize and rescale here. Do I care about the original points here? Or do we just do geometry.normalize? And what do we rescale it to? Well, those are probably absolute distances. The length is going to be the metrics. We have an angle. It's okay, so this is just a global parameter, which maybe it should be put into metrics for consistency. Main Ming radius main ring radius minus metrics dot adjacent distance do. Okay. It's getting a little crowded now, but that puts them about where we want them. Now, I don't have an easy way to compare these. Because I just used tuples. And I mostly don't need to be using the parts here. Oop, no, that's the wrong way. Surprisingly enough. All right, so out towards that end. I guess I could just do more helpers. I could probably also just make those some tuple operations. But that's pretty direct. And of course, I moved that one instead of the top one. So now we have to go find, calculate, opposite. Point Y and A. And I'm not sure what's positive and what's negative here. I guess we'll find out. Oh, actually, do we... No, actually, the thing itself doesn't matter. I guess this could also just be 0.8. Oh, this is an equal sign. That's the type. It's for type signatures. Okay, and that is in fact the opposite. Is it done greater than? Yeah, and these are a little too tight. Is collage. There's collage.txt. And one line. Display of no effect. Alignment and placement. From string, typeface, size. Meaning you could take two lines and lay them out next to each other. Yeah. So the text breaking we still have to deal with ourselves. Assuming we want to do that. What does the other charts do? No, actually you do just, it's just smaller text. So maybe we leave that for now. So that is drawing some trait information and some line adjustments. Well, yeah, well, I guess that's a different kind of line adjustment. Repositioning things and cutting them off. Now, what's it going to take? This might actually verge outside of a little bit. Is that output? No, it wouldn't be output. Right, a package. Was I looking? Was I maybe looking for the holy ground effect? Which does not need to be in here. Actually, no, there was a version of this that broke everything out. Huh, that's just a UI thing. Room reward status. I've forgotten which folder it was in. Was it in GUI? I mean, that would be kind of codex. Well, that's something else. Okay, yeah, those are the sidebar entries. Thought it was GUI, but the L active effect. Probably not biomap. Oh. Oops. I wonder if there's posters of this. And then they just have an overlay image for highlighting the current section. And the fact that this has a fade means that this is probably like blended on top of that. HUD? What are some bars? Those. So I was wondering if I could get a good element for the lines at some point. Okay, so that's like the outer shell. Now, yes, there's those, but not, well, we've got a data file with this, right? GUI screens. Why did I... That's where I missed this when I was looking through stuff before. Probably because I looked at screens and didn't think that would be where boons would be. Weapon icons, open enchantment icons. Oh, all the backgrounds from the older updates. Oh, that's the little corner. Boon entrance. Ah, yes. Oh. Oh, no, there's the large. Okay, so not all of these are going to be large. Yep. Okay, so those might be accurate. Now, I guess there's no reason not to do that path. All right, so we're going to do this. We're going to git ignore it. Which will make it more interesting when I need to deploy stuff, but no point in checking it in. Actually, wasn't that what we were trying to copy? Boon icons. Now, does collage do images? It might be kind of an external thing. Image width and height, which is I might have to kind of put this into text scale. I'm not sure this is going to work out well. Oops. Well, that was easier than expected. Okay, so the circle was really just there kind of for sizing purposes. This is indeed where we want to put the text someplace else. And we need to look more carefully at some of the layering issues. In fact, we probably want to display the connectors separately from the traits. Which is why I might need to get into pre-calculating stuff and then making multiple passes for layering purposes. I'm not sure which is up and which is down. Oh, this is going to be a shift Y. Okay. And let's say that might not be quite right. Nor am I necessarily drawing this inside of a unit space. Yeah, the images have made the layering really painful, though. Well, I'll do a boon icons. All right, so we have to actually... Displaying the trait is probably fine. It is display connected trait. So if we view this as the entire process Well, I'm probably eventually going to have to do some kind of like display connections, display icons. So do we create a new graphics object that has like the text and the icon and the connector information? Do we put them together into some sort of pair? Do we put them together in some sort of record? Yeah, I'm probably due to take a break. About time to get water anyway. I'll be back in a few minutes. Sorry, Misto. Uh, uh, yeah, no kidding. Wait, didn't I just go past that? Okay, there's the cuttlefish. Oh, she has two knives. Wow. Oh. Oh, too slow. Yeah, can't take any of my stuff off. That was rude. It's like, this is the second time I've been killed by my mother. What is it with this? Uh... But you know, it kind of solves that problem with money under your feet. Okay, that works. Did I not do an updated build?
Piles and piles.
Alright. Science time.
More science.
Aww.
It flips
The
it.
platform is, however, facing up and trying to balance itself to the floor.
Yeah. Raise this
Well, not all
one.
experiments are successful.
Uh,
And supposedly they have turned off some of the debug tracking. Now it's still a recently loaded game, so it might not be too visible in the jobs panel, but oh, vacant position. That's new. But it does seem to be scrolling much better now. Welcome back. I actually decided to get some tea as well. Yeah. I still miss that. Maybe someday I need to try and figure out how to install it again. I guess the only thing we need for drawing the icons themselves is that center point. We need that with at least the image in the name. So this is doing the calculate duo metric or connection info. We're going to need some of that. We're going to need to keep some of that connection info around somewhere. Somehow when we connect to though from the inside. Manually place buildings. Well, buildings were, if anything, more automatic, but what are you thinking about manually? I might almost need some of this connection information as actually part of my data model. Because we're eventually going to want to be like highlighting the lines that have prerequisites met. For that matter, we need to be highlighting icons as well, but that could technically exist separately. Actually, that's going to do connections all the way through to their prerequisites, so I'm not sure how it impacts these per se. But if I were to start thinking in terms of a data model of connections, that might not be too bad. So what do we want? Well, that's in part represented by the requirements. Now these arcs actually kind of represent the like one from each set. For a duo, it's a bunch of one from each set. And I'm not yet dealing with the couple of odd things like certain casts, revenge boons, call boons. That's just been too messy to think about for the most part. So we just have, okay, here's your chart. Display these things. We probably need to at least start with a let, and then maybe it moves up even farther at some point where we, but okay, so we calculate them. We have a list of them. How do we associate that with the appropriate trait icon? Do I start translating these things into like drawable traits? Visual traits? That have all of their, have display style information? And you can run through those and draw them. So that would kind of be right now. These the only two ultra traits would be the duo boons. So that's all we've dealt with. The draw a bull. Connector. We've just been dealing with those things. I'm sure that the matter of connection will get a little bit more complicated as time goes on. Well, in particular, like these are actually going to go to multiple points, maybe have intermediate points. I'm kind of counting on the prerequisite list to do some of that. We actually have to have data for the connections. And I guess technically, well, this will be connecting to stuff into here. That'll be connecting to stuff to there. So I'm just going to have those short. These are sort of going to be either or. I think I might, for the duos, I might end up doing these sort of intermediate things as like dotted lines in both colors. Because that's the way you can, at this level, say you've met the Aries prerequisite. You can set your separate if you've met you've got this side and that side. The nice thing about that is if you kind of zoom in here, you'd be able to see a little bit of dotted line either end. And see if you've got an outgoing or incoming prerequisite met. So that would say we don't split it into two parts. So we just go ahead and define see display trait. And I'll at some point have to figure out how we display prerequisite and connection information. But I feel like this is going to be like, okay, display this thing, and maybe this even could sort of move up into our model. So does this replace connector? Well, right now a connector is a thing that can be calculated independent of that. Calculate. That's list over traits. You are not getting trait information. We're just pulling out the God stuff. So right now we do still have a connector concept because all those functions return just this information. If we had a type A, well, one way to do this is just to say it's the two things. So you would have trait dot name and connector dot icon point. Or rather thing dot trait dot name and thing dot connector dot icon point, which feels like it's a slippery slope if you keep on adding substructures. If we switch the language to boon, so you're going to have at least I don't need a trait ID right now, although I probably will at some point. And I know I'm going to need other stuff. Like, for instance, they're probably going to need the God information to pick colors. So what do we need to do for that? We need to do something equals something, and we have to display those. So we've got the thing to calculate the connector. We've got the trait information. This is display God, display duos. So it's going to be sort of at this level. That's not the right word. And you're going to return a list of boon. Actually, you don't deal with the duo part right now. I guess we still just pass duo to that, deal with it later. So we still need to pass trait into you. We need to... I probably just do a function for this. You do need metrics. There's no other particular data. So that's doing display. This needs to do... I guess this has to toss it to the lat. Oh, was I passing a connector to the draw? Yes, the function I was using to draw was taking that. I might be able to do a record including those fields. In this case, I don't know if I need the object here per se. That you were icon point and A and B. In. I guess it only saved me so much typing there. Here's the time to question if we actually do want to make a separate structure to avoid a lot of nestedness. You're not doing that. Okay, so that checks out. Metrics 2. All right, so this was a list of traits because we had done traits.duoboons, which means this doesn't actually handle general trait collections yet. So that would be useless. But compilable? Now, the whole point of this was we want to be able to process this twice. So we have like display connected trait. Now you see this is connector. This is not a record that has connector-like fields. And I'm not sure it's instanceable for the things that are using just that. Well, it would have to be connector of some record, and the type for those would be a blank record. Type for O. Then you'd be a connector of record with name icon for the other thing. Or I just flipped it over to be so it only displays boons. And we have a moment of, well, would it be like display boon connector then? And then we kind of wipe out some of the connector stuff. Let's display connected trait. Oh, you were actually doing a little bit of placement. Of course, if the display trait could be like display boon. So maybe there is a place to do these separate, and then this would kind of fall out of use. Would it let me only reference? Yeah, it'll let me only reference a subset of the fields. And then it's not just the icon. We just call it boon trait. Because then you actually have more information. Than we had in the district trait. Okay, that's holding up so far. Display boon connectors. Well, that's a single, and then it's a stack, and then display boon trait. That's a stack. It doesn't fix the overlap though. Or did it just reverse it? Aha, okay. So the things that are going to be topmost are actually going to be well, I guess you could think of this, okay, topmost. Yeah, that is indeed background. They're going to be kind of background. All right, so you are gone. I should probably check what you're calling though. Display connected trait. Display connector is gone. Display trait is, because it takes a trait, is gone. All right, so that accomplishes a bit of layering. That's almost useful as a duo chart. Oh, I might actually have to do icons and text separately. That's only for these. Interestingly enough, just putting these on the bottom would tend to put this more towards the outer edge and give you more space for it. I guess I could also put the words above. It's just kind of weird, a convention to put text below. And actually, this is kind of an arbitrary choice. I just thought, hey, it's the top. It wasn't that one. Well, I guess flipping this would have the same effect. No, that doesn't really help. They're pretty much next to each other, so whichever way it goes. And I can move them farther out. That makes it less in the middle-ish. Yeah, you can barely even see any line there. So that's an unsolved design problem. Now for everything except these, oh, and then we still have to put Hermes somewhere. You could almost make these larger. Well, yes, I say make them larger, but that's really going to obscure how these connect. It's already a little muddy there. So it's almost becoming useful as a chart of all of the possible duos. Although reading like what are all of Artemis's duos, well, I guess you want to do that. The in-game reference is okay, but you've got a cross, you've got left, right, you've got boop, 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 boop. So you can still kind of go through that. This gets maybe a little bit too close, drawing them at this size. And I might actually want to solve some of the more fundamental layout issues before we start getting too particular in other things here. We've kind of reached the point where I have to think about what we actually want to do with these. And I'm still torn as to whether I should be rotating these icons. If I set this up so that it rotates to the particular god you're looking at, I probably want to rotate these other things around it. So when you're looking at them, you see their icons, well, mostly kind of aligned. So one way to do that would be to use some other program to lay things out. and import that. I mean, there's SVG. I don't know if I have a way to read an SVG per se. SVG parser. HTML. Well, element, text, comment, attribute, SVG node, parse, okay, HTML. I guess this is you have a string and you want to display it in Elm. Okay, so this is probably standard SVG, which we don't have a way to use in Collage. So it'd actually be sort of like doing this weird thing where I just use SVG as a thing that can lay out things in a graph. But I also don't know of any other way to like draw such that I just get a list of points. That would allow me to draw and then I could load up the SVG and go digging through the attributes to get the locations of things. If I did drawing in app, we'd have a whole new set of problems. But I would be able to possibly try drawing some of the connections. Well, what you could do with automated connections is not necessarily going to be pretty, but you might be able to do something semi-sensible with it. But that could turn into a real rabbit hole to get, well, I'm going to have a data structure, a way of representing nicely positioned lines. Are you? Yeah, you're unsnoozed again. I gotta keep on rolling back my graphics drivers. It's gone crazy lately. I mean, it's Boink, but I don't know why it's not respecting my the other things I'm doing with my system. It's roughly when I installed the graphics driver. Could I do anything with the boons I've already got? Well, to do any kind of layout, I'd almost have to like a force-directed layout, graph layout system, which might be a little bit much. I can't precisely give them random locations without, well, I could run a random number generator. I could put them all in a circle just to get something up there. So if we can identify a duo boon, can we identify a non-duo boon? Well, no, that would be a basic boon. And we should never have an unknown. That is all traits now. In this case, we want to be doing it per god. We'd actually have the god data that has the list of stuff. Huh. So we've got the traits is list of god data, which has under it all the things that are part of them. Actually, we already... Well, we have ways of identifying a group. Because as we did... No, they're basic of God. So we could... Actually, we can just filter to type equals basic God out of the thing, which is a messy way to do it. Since we're actually going through that with the God data, if we expose the function to all of those that are basic, they're going to be boon chart. Display God. Actually, that's going to do the centers. It's traits. Display God. We've iterated through. I guess following the other thing, we should do some sort of calculation on that. And be able to display them in a similar layering to the other thing. It's just going to be a little bit different setup. Now, one of the things we kind of slop through here is that layout boons really only does duo boons right now. And in fact, we're just passing duo boons to it. Maybe layout boons somewhere down the line. Yeah, this is only calculate duo, which, hey, what do you know? We've got a place where we could calculate some stuff. They're already tagged with which god they are. As if we're laying out in a circle, we're going to need an index. We kind of already have a circle layout, but it's not in a generic format. Yeah, now you see, I had this where it calculated stuff in and of itself. And then I pulled it out into metrics because I needed to reuse stuff. Let's see, and these would not actually be connectors. Well, connectors only have an A and a B with an icon point in the middle, which is not actually a very generic format. But if I were to throw all the icons in a circle, this is exactly how that would work. And that works off of traits. Does that care anything about what's in a trait? Well, it does a drop 1. We could take care of that ahead of time. Cares about the length. It cares about the main ring radius, which could be a parameter. And I guess this that actually draws things cares a little bit about it. But calculating the points is a start. What do we need adjacent distance for? Oh, that's the scale of each thing. Angle is how much we rotate it. Actually, this is initially array empty. So all I really need is the count here. And yeah, I did this. I did the centers in it. I did that by doing the actual collages. I did not calculate those positions. Which probably suggests that I just need to do that math. So scale that to that size. It's going to be a little bit of drawing stuff. Shift it out there. Put it into a group. I think that it affects how the rotate interacts with it. We haven't actually done rotations ourselves yet. So what does this look like? Oh, oh. I have to rotate that, but I might be able to rotate it and then translate it. But I'm going to have to recalculate the exact angle for the facing rotation. Does precalculating the centers actually get me anything then? If I still have to kind of redo everything? Well, all right. So a ring would just be a pleasing way to lay things out without really knowing anything about what we're displaying. And the only way we have to display anything at the moment is the connector thing, which probably needs to get rewritten somehow. I want to iterate through all of the single god boons, placing them somehow relative to that god's area. The center's in a array, which means we're just getting it by index. Oh, to know how that ring works, so the outer arcs can be globally calculated because there's only kind of one thing in that area. Within a god, we either have to just pick a number that's appropriate for all of them, for the number of slots. Well, no, even to know which index to put it in, you have to know which number it is within that god's little sublist of boons. We go through each god, go through their list, do a circle layout. Does that need to be done twice? Well, the direction we're going is we have information about everything with location stuff. We'll eventually need some size information and things, perhaps. Well, I guess this is around a circle. It's going to have to be drawn in the context of the god itself anyway. But that we have to repeat that scaling to do our layering, though. I might not be able to use the drawing method I like, because we need to be able to reference global coordinates. So I could make a thing similar to like Stack or whatever that would take collages and lay them out in a nice circle. That wouldn't give us the feedback about distances and centers and angles as much. I actually want to calculate the centers of blah. We have to do all the rotation math ourselves, which is a whole area we haven't gotten into our narrow geometry yet. But I guess that should just be trigonometry, so we're kind of in a unit circle. Oh, this would have to be some kind of straight up for loop because I don't have an actual list to iterate right now. I can still go back to passing the list in. But it's actually not going to use... You're using that to actually display. You wouldn't use it, it would just be a way to iterate. But, man, I guess that was still, wasn't quite basics. Well, there's list repeat. There's list range, which I guess a list range would be pretty close to index. We just make a range that was exactly what the indexes would be. Now, increasing by 1. Okay, so 3 to 6 is 3 and 6. I'm assuming the indexes are 0-based. So what do we do with that? There's going to be a little bit of this. Now for this, unless I could keep the offset by half just in case I can backport this to the God layout. Oh, that means you're going to need a radius too. No, these are float. Body is a record of type, number. So it should be chart metrics. Oh, are you an array? No, you're a list indexed map. Oh, you were an array. Okay, so this much matches up. Now I'm rusty on my trigonometry. It's not necessarily a unit vector. I guess it's just a vector. X1, Y1, X1, Y1. Around the origin by b degrees. Let's look at proof. Okay, this might be it. And then, of course, there's matrix form. I don't know if we need a full matrix, but maybe it's one of those things going to kind of creep on us. Of course, I've been using points for vectors. X times cosine of, well, assuming our angles are the same, the correct format. Yeah, oh, nope, that's X. And this is Y. And I guess I just take a unit vector? Let's see, the gods were starting at the top. That would be some kind of Y. And this is where, well, basically this is this. Is it right? Is it useful to get this list of centers out? Let's see, so that is an index map of data. Yes, this was removing things. We would have to do it's a shame this doesn't go into the workflow of our other things. We've got the placeholder for it. I mean, the name we need to change. It's not a duo anymore. But how would we keep track of the index that this boon is? I guess these are more appropriate as point now too. Not that one. Can we do that as calculate the position? Well, eventually we're probably gonna have data for this, which maybe you don't even calculate that. So if we take the list of basic boons, if we do that for each god, we have the count, which is, we need the count anyway. So boons is that of duo boons. We might not be able to do the filter function here because we do kind of need to do it in groups. I could certainly draw something as part of drawing each god, but that wouldn't necessarily get our layering to work right. Display gods. Display god does in fact have the data. We could ask for that would be traits and linked upgrades, wouldn't it? Well, if we had a thing that asked for all the traits of a certain god, then we could scan through the god data and not even look at the others. And then pull the basics out of those two lists. I would get something on there. I don't know if it would be useful. I was trying to get something on there. Hopefully something with coordinates. Just going through and drawing them as a collage doesn't give me coordinates. Recompilable. We still need a function here. Duo boons. Hey, Kyle. Yeah, probably is a good break time. See if that's the proper name of it, or if it's medium. Oh, this changes everything. Oh my gosh. They weren't showing this in the trailers. We could just put our bases on the ceiling now. Oh. This was a... These look like they were freshly plucked. Oh, okay, so I could be the... Oh, hi. Was he fighting a warper? Welcome back. All right. I don't know if having a list of just all basic boons is useful. Have I done things like this already? It'd be a filter, right? That's for a trade ID. Not exactly. So first we have to filter. There's data god. And actually, do we filter? Because we kind of know it's only going to be one entry. Maybe we just do something and we can say don't even bother doing it if it's not the right one. Then else nothing. Then we have a function kind of like this that's going through... We'll have to go through traits and link traits. Or linked upgrades. Oh, god traits. So we've already got a helper for that. Find boon by trait ID. Now, linked in and of itself would also include the duos. We still have to filter them. Oh, no, 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 no. Which puts us back to basic boons. List that map. Kind of need this. Sad as it is. Which makes me wonder if this switch type is the right type, but well, maybe that's not too bad. We have to get what was it? God boons. God traits. This is Elm. It is a compiled to JavaScript language. It is. Well, I'm not up on programming languages enough to think of the exact proper correct terms. It is typed. It is immutable. It's largely functional. Well, I mean, I guess you could probably call it pure functional. There's kind of a runtime system that handles effects. So that's where you get your integration with JavaScript, but it's all asynchronous communication. Okay, that's compilable. So all we're going to go here is basic boons of okay, so given a God data, we've got the traits. Well, that was all traits. But no, we wanted to do it where as points. So we want to say we need them by groups so that we have the count. I guess having done that, we might be able to put them back together because they'll still be tagged with what type they are. And I have to figure out how to make it make sense with the duo boon stuff. I might need to do that until such time. All right, what you want to do is to take each group, lay it out, and then we can put them all together. Well, lay it out around what? If I just do a ring, it's going to be around 0. And we have to do some stuff to put it in the appropriate place. And I see, I just called this layout boons. But it only does... It really only does duo boons right now. So until such time as I can find a way to fix it. That also needs a better name. I passed in something that was not a duo boon. Well, I guess I could switch by the type. The funny thing is that one of these functions actually does switch by the type, but I don't have enough context to do stuff there. Because then this stuff would, at the level where we're switching off, we would need to... Well, we need to know what index we are, essentially. So if we had to lay out basic boons, that's a pre-filtered list of traits. Do we need chart metrics? If we want to get final locations, we would. Kind of using the word traits here. So traits is actually a list of gods for each god. I guess then I don't necessarily need the function that does the full filter if we're going through their list anyway. All right, so now this is layout basic boons of. Now that would be of a god data. Means we need the context to get the stuff out. If it was a god data, it would have all of that. If we went back and what would that look like? We expose that. So that would give us a data, but this is a two-piece call. So we have to put a little wrapper around that. And if you were to do that, we would do there's God traits, right? God data to append those two things. Now I'm in the middle of stuff here that's not going to be a list boon. Okay. So I might not actually need basic boons of. So that is a set of God data. Might need metrics later. Would I need to know anything about which god it is? To get each group into a ring, no. To attach it to the god, kinda. So that tells me the list of things that we need to work with. That gives me that can give me a count. I only got as far as, did I actually? That does give me a list of centers. It's not going to be attached to anything. It's a very generic format. I kind of need to be doing stuff that's associated with trade information. Now, right, before I was able to absolutely directly calculate my parameters from just the boon information, more or less. This depends on the index in the ring. And the sad thing is, this isn't even final layout. It's just I want to get something up there so that we have data with coordinates. Maybe I need to stop trying to think in terms of a generic version of this. We got a list of the basic boons. We have something like ring layout, except it's able to directly create the trade information. Well, that gets me to the count. Which means I need the list. Which I guess that's an easy thing to calculate. If it's for the specific purpose, radius could be assumed. That's not going to get us a chart metrics, but hopefully we don't need it. I see, this is generating centers. We're just going to be making the list here. List.map, this would be an index map. An indexed map is iData. Now, for this, it is going to be a trait of some sort. And the thing we're making, I think we just end up calling a boon. Where do we remap that? Layout duo boon, so that calculates a bunch of stuff into here. Which I guess you could do that calculate that. It's not as big of a calculation here. Although I guess we're gonna have. It's just a point right now. We don't have any actual connections. Trait.name. So this is already feeling like once again, like the wrong data structure. And we don't care if it's an array. In fact, this just said list boon. Ah, yes, the radius, which I don't know right now. Okay, we haven't called this yet, have we? Okay. Which means that should be... Let's see, we're not going to have any actual connectors here. Okay, yeah, so that's on a single global ring. Okay, and the drift we're seeing is because of the different numbers of boons in each god. So that, yes, this is a single display. This is going to need to be scaled a bit. So each of those needs to be translated to its appropriate center. If this is global core, it's going to be quite small. The factor might even be adjacent distance. Nope, that didn't end up being right. That was the amount we scaled the entire thing to, but that is still like that on the entire ring. Still too... Yeah, we've got issues. Traits, do we know... Okay, so that's our data. Do we fudge getting the index of that? Okay. Kinda. And let's just be an add, right? So that kind of works. Just need to resize all the stuff that's going to be inside there. Oh, 0.0.5. This needs to be 0.05. Now, we have no concept of so that's supposed to be the shape of the line, not of the point or the icon. Nor do we have the type of it there. How complex is the function we're using to draw this? Text, image size, yeah, scale. Is this affected by this? Does not seem to be affected by the shift scale order. So we can kind of fudge this. I think. Okay, this has to be back here, indeed. Oh. Okay. Nope, that's not it. Am I doing something, that should be whatever just coming out of there. Why does that change the size of them? Was it not 0.8? It was 0.08. We need a better solution for this. At least. Yeah, one thing, I don't know if it has to do with the way I'm scaling stuff. Sometimes you get sharpness and sometimes you don't. And it might be because of the way I'm doing unit things. All right, well, that at least gets some sense, and I don't really have Hermes on here yet. I just left that stuff in there. Some sense of where it's going. Basic boons are kind of on the same plane as the other stuff. I guess I can also check notes. We figured out how to get boon icons. We kind of know where the points are. We kind of know where that is. We haven't done a whole lot of formatting. Adjacent boon. Yeah, these might be a little bit of a special case. I've actually done some of this formatting. I'm still not sure what a good way to generate layouts for the individual gods is going to be, because I don't see any way around it being manual. It's just a question of, do we build a layout tool in here? Do we try to like import an SVG, kind of using guidelines and stuff to lay it out? Is there some other tool that would be good for like laying it out and kind of like giving me all the important points? Maybe that'd be like a kind of a graph layout tool. I mean, Dottie was that, but that's not manual. Anyway, that's going to be more of a research project for the future. Well, this is almost useful for duo boons now. The only problem is that there is no interactivity to like say, what was that again? Which almost makes me wonder if I should focus on making it a useful duo boon chart first. But the how we store the data structures for the positioning of these things will probably end up affecting this stuff a lot. And it might be nice to get it might be nice to have all that settled, except the interactive features are also going to put constraints on data structures and things, so. Another thing I could possibly do in the interim. There's probably god icons in here somewhere. I don't know which ones they're using. This is for iconic purposes. It's probably that one. Because it has the flatter look of this, which is obviously not in use. Well, I might be able to figure this out just by looking in game. Like there's more edging on these. Oh, yep. And that's the fancy version. So GUI screens boon select symbols. Hmm. So that could be a nicer fill-in for this too. And of course we have to do something with poor Hermes. But he doesn't interact with the duo system, so. Oh, well, I also haven't exported data for these, so there's no whole lot I can do interactively anyway. Oh well. It's just plain getting late and I'm getting tired. Thanks for watching. Thanks for support from subscribers. Let me see. I'm not normally doing a lot of coding at night. I don't want to have anybody to recommend here. That's what I'm usually on. This is technically a as I feel like it kind of evening. Let's see, that science and technology. This looks like it's more robotics or something. All right, nothing jumping out there. What else do we got? Well, we got somebody actually playing 80s. Which I kind of got to the end of the story stuff, so I've kind of wrapped it up myself. Oops. We actually did that break. If you're looking for someplace cool to hang out, R1 is playing. Looks like just getting to Elysium right now. And that's someplace cool to hang out. Thanks for hanging out with me. Good night, and until next time.